Joining us today is songwriter, vocalist, and entrepreneur, Jaime Vendera. Jaime is one of the music industry's top vocal performance coaches in the business today. He's worked with singers from I Prevail, Journey, Alter Bridge, and of course, our friend and former guest, James LaBrie from Dream Theater. Jaime developed the Dr. Vokes vocal training system, and singers all over the world have been using it to rehab and strengthen their voices. If that's not interesting enough, you might know Jaime from a little show called Mythbusters, where he demonstrated how he can break a goddamn wine glass with only his voice.
That's nice, huh?
Ladies and gentlemen, everyman, Jaime Vendera. What's up, brother?
What's up, guys? Glad to have you on here. I got to say one thing, though. I have not worked with Journey. Steve Algieri is a really good friend of mine, and yeah, we've traded a lot of tips. So there's a lot of people like Primal Fear or even Alter Bridge and like, oh, you work with those singers. But I'm close with a lot of singers. We do a lot of Skype sessions where we talk in rap voice, and these guys write articles for my books. But it is always vocal related. So I'm sure I've helped Steve out many a time in one way or another. So
that's awesome, man. Well, you know, I want to get it kind of explained, because we have this thing we call the Cosmic Canoe here on the Everyman podcast. And the idea is generally that we're on a shared journey together. And, you know, every time we get connected to someone, it turns into 5 other connections that develop all these great relationships and new interesting faces and stories. And, you know, a couple weeks ago, we had James LaBrie back on the podcast. We met James at a Dream Theater show, Daryl's first concert. And connected, and he came on the show, had a great time. So he's like, hey, you know, let's come back on. So he comes back on, and when he was on the show, episode 94, you guys can check it out on YouTube. And one of the things he brought up was, you know, I had this show, and we were on the road in South America, and I woke up, my voice is thrashed, I can't even talk. And I had this thing, it's like a water bottle, hang on, let me go get it. And turns around, we're like waiting, we thought he was going to come out with a flamethrower or something crazy. Yeah. Comes out with this little doodad, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, what is going on here? And he starts demonstrating it, and he's like, yeah, I was literally hoarse. I started blowing in this thing and doing my training exercises all day, and next thing you know, time for the show, I went out, did the whole set. And what he was talking about was the Dr. Vokes. That little doodad right there. So before we get into Mythbusters and Shattering Glass and everything like that, you know, I want to kind of start where we got connected. So, you know, James was like, hey, you should get him on. And then Chance, ironically, shout out to the Falset Boys. Mm-hmm. Chance was like the one who made the connection. Next thing you know, here we are. So tell me about what you're doing now. Where are you? What's going on? What's your deal?
Dude, where am I not? I own an online school. I'm always teaching. I'm writing books. I've written like, I don't know, 60 or 70 books, singing books. I write fiction. I write horror. I write fantasy. I write YA. I haven't done any TV shows in a while. That's my preference because I was on a show in Japan, and you'll hear it tonight. It's coming on now. My voice goes hoarse. It comes in and out, and it has been for 6 years. Because I got a piece of glass stuck in my throat on a show in Tokyo. The funny thing is, we had about 500 people in the crowd. And so I'm screaming at the first glass, and when it exploded, I felt like somebody had stabbed me in the back of the throat with a knife, and I could taste blood, and I'm like, what the hell? And I was like, okay. And I had to break 2 more glasses. So I kept going. I didn't think anything. And I got back to the hotel room, and there was a huge knot. It wouldn't quit bleeding in the back of my throat. Got home, we did MRIs, CAT scans, anything we can think of, and you can't see glass on an MRI. I mean, we could see the scarring, but we really weren't for sure, and I wasn't about to let them go in with it, you know, and do exploratory surgery to find out if anything was wrong. So I do feel a knot even to this day. It's a little less from using the Vokes, but it is still there. So, but man, I keep pushing. I mean, even after this accident, I've toured. I tour with I Prevail. You know, Brian and Eric, they're both my students. I work with Dylan too. In fact, I'm trying to get him on tonight. I want to push him to do another show with you if you guys like it. He's so busy this week.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't really say what he's doing, but he's just too busy to be on tonight. But location. Yeah, them, and you know, I tour with Bollywood artists. I work with Freedom. My last gigs, I was flying to Mumbai. And when COVID hit, it kind of knocked out some things. I would have been back in India teaching. Probably would have been touring with some Bollywood artists here. I would have been back on the road with I Prevail. So I just keep busy, man. I'm working on a new, my partner will kill me, and I can't really say a lot, but I'm working on a new product that is unlike anything I've ever done with singing, but it is amazing. And we've been on this thing for almost a year, and I work like 4 or 5 hours. I get up at 5 in the morning and work on this thing till at least 9 or 10 before I start teaching or whatever I'm doing. But that, and everyone with COVID, everyone's they're doing goofy videos or they're releasing songs, and that's the one thing I've kind of lost. And even though I have no stamina now, and my voice 5 minutes from now will be hoarse, and 3 minutes will be okay, I can still record. I can hit pause. I can do multiple takes. So we've been recording songs. I have my partner Scott Stiff, who tours with me around the world when we do workshops. And I got another songwriting partner, Ryan Wall, who does a lot of music on his own. And so we formed a band called Angel Fire East, and we're doing stuff. And then I also do parody songs. So, and that's what it's about, man. It's about having fun.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
If anything, COVID helped me to learn to have fun again. I actually kind of lost that connection, especially after the accident, because I haven't really sang much for the last 6 years because it's the pain hurts a lot. And I actually sent you some clips where I'm hitting soprano C, and so I haven't hit soprano C in 6 years. But working.
Now, can you give some? I want to talk about that. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
But we have a lot of musicians that listen to the podcast, but we also have a lot of the everyman and the everywoman who maybe just they're music enthusiasts. Can you kind of put to context what that means when you say like a C sharp and soprano? Like, what does that mean in layman's terms?
Oh, I mean that's like it's a high C. You hear these female opera singers hitting these crazy notes.
Like a Mariah Carey type.
Yeah, well, that's a whistle. It's probably a little higher, but yeah, up in that range. So we have a song. It'll be out in a couple months called Forbidding that has that in it. But it's Jim Gillette. I don't know if either of you heard Jim Gillette from the band Nitro. So, well, that was my coach, dude. That's how I learned to sing those ultra high notes. Have you ever heard any Nitro music or 80s bands like Vinnie Vincent Beige and Steelheart? That kind of range is what I'm talking about, which isn't really popular anymore. But hey,
well,
I'm 51. I'm still stuck in the 80s. So
it's
man, wrong with the 80s.
I'll tell you, and we'll kind of get on Dream Theater, eventually. But one of the things that drew me to Dream Theater is the first band that I ever fell in love with was Yes. Okay. Yeah. And I've always been drawn to vocal extremes, and later that kind of developed into my metal tastes, where I love some of the guttural stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I'm really into power metal. Dragon Force and Sonata Arctica and Power Glove. They've been on the show, and all these kind of over the top, in a good way. Bombastic singers, Judas Priest. And I know that's a lot of the kind of stuff you're talking about. And there's a certain, it's like you have to run like a razor's edge to be able to do that, and it's so much more. I don't know what the right word is, but it's to me, it's a higher level of difficulty to say you know what, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to commit to it, and I'm going to make a career out of it, because it would be much easier, because you all could sing in a quote unquote normal range too. Yeah. But you choose to it's like these fighter pilots, bro, right? Like the Blue Angels, they're yeah, I'll just fucking fly up here and do a couple twisty doos, and it's well, you could just go straight there, Well,
it's what's in your heart. The one thing, who was it? And I no offense to this man, Shinedown. Love Shinedown. Love Brent Smith's voice. When someone's talking about, man, Brent Smith's got a 6-octave range and he sings so high. And he does sing high, but I started, where I come from the 80s, I started comparing range. And you got Jim Gillette and Rob Halford and Tony Harnell from TNT, these really high guys, Skid Row. And then you got Bon Jovi. So back then we thought, okay, here's Bon Jovi's range. And then in this day and age, in the 2000s, we have Brent Smith, and we hold him up here. And I started comparing Shinedown songs to a lot of Bon Jovi songs. And I'm like, dude, basically the same vocal range. It's our perception of what we think is high or what we think is low. And it's really about what the singer wants to accomplish. If you don't have the mindset that I cannot hit that note, you will hit that note. Same thing with me. I was in a band at 16 called Flints, And these guys were a lot older than me. And I was in high school and playing on the weekends. And they were like, hey, you got young vocal cords. So we're going to have you sing Moni Moni and Sweet Child of Mine and, and Def Leppard and all this stuff. Okay. I didn't know any better, man. So I went for it. I had trouble, but, I figured it out along the way. I didn't have that total mindset that it was out of my reach.
It's funny you mentioned Bon Jovi because my best friend Joe, his mother is Bon Jovi's #1 fan. She literally won a contest for Good Morning America at one point in our childhood of like who the it's awesome. She was like the president of the fan club, all this shit. So one time so one time she had extra tickets to see Bon Jovi, and I was like, fuck yeah, there's no way I'm gonna miss this opportunity. So it was Bon Jovi and Nickelback. Now, Nickelback gets a lot of shit. At one point, I'm old enough to remember. First of all, I love them.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when everybody was like, dude, Nickelback is awesome. And then somehow they became too successful, I guess. And like that became uncool to write like #1 hit after #1 hit for 15 years.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's pretty impressive. But anyway, I remember two things like, wow, like they're super heavy live. But Bon Jovi, I'm listening to it and I'm like, man, this is heavier than the records. And you're talking about the vocal range and how you perceive it, and I think part of that has a lot to do with like the modern amp technology that everyone's using. Like every sound is heavier and lower, and especially now with downtuning, like especially I Prevail. Like my fiance and I were listening to it before the podcast because I went down a wormhole kind of going through YouTube and typing your name in, and then watching all this stuff. And but that heavy guitar driven music is like mainstream rock now, so like the vocal range is seemingly in popular music is like getting lower, but it's kind of
it's still energetic. I mean, there's no sin in singing. I was listening to I was studying a lot of different singers lately, and today it was Patsy Cline and then Al Green. And as I'm listening to Al Green, who is freaking phenomenal, and I'm like the hugest Prince fan. I mean, Prince is everything to me. And I compare Al Green to Prince, and listening to Al's falsetto, and he is really nowhere near the vocal range of anything, but it's his swagger and his phrasing and his flow and the way he does it. And you perceive him as being a much higher singer. But even today, I mean, when you drop down and, Brian, Burkheiser's singing and I Prevail, he's still singing pretty decently high. We worked, when they did Lifelines, and I'm sure you've heard the stuff about him where he had vocal surgery and had to cancel a bunch of gigs. He could barely hit the A4. Well, if you heard the song Lifelines, it's on the chorus. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that anymore. And I was in Detroit working with him for the Trauma record. And in 6 hours, dude, he's nailing 2 notes higher for Hurricane. And he's already higher. He's already singing higher. So you can't expand your range. But even if he didn't, dude, that's still the same range as Separate Ways by Journey. Yet we think of Steve
super
Perry,
high,
is super high. Same notes. Hurricane and Separate Ways. The money note, that high note is the same note.
I love that song, by the way. Talk about a heavy ass song.
Yeah.
If you see Neil Sean playing that, like in the last 10 years, he's like, I'm like, hell yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
I love that shit,
Dude,
it's
that's
so
what
heavy.
I loved him in Hardline, if you remember that band with Joey Gioeli, and it's just that hard driving sound. Yeah, I dig it.
He wails, dude. He's great.
Yeah.
Can we just back up a second here?
Sure.
I gotta stop here because I gotta touch into the energy that you have, Jamie, because what you said about Brian Burkheiser, getting him back from vocal surgery, can you just talk about the passion that you have with respect to getting to your guys and teaching them and getting them back up to baseline and even breaking their limits? Can you talk about that? Because I just feel a lot of energy from you right now when it comes to teaching, and I resonate with that really. I mean, like for me, I got chills right now just talking to you about it, because anytime you can pour into someone and make them better or help them from, a deficit. I've had 2 knee surgeries, I've had shoulder surgeries, I've had neck damage. I know what it is to go in and go through PT and have somebody get me better than what I was. So please talk to us about that.
But it's funny you said PT, because a lot of people call me a singing teacher or vocal coach. I'm a voice strengthening specialist. If I'm working for whoever, Starset or Sky Harbor or any of these bands, it's about stamina and longevity. And I never wanted to be a coach, man. And I have to back up to explain this. In 1996, my voice is going out for my endems will come back in a minute. In 1996, a friend of mine, Troy Gregory, had called and said, "Dude, can you teach me to sing high?" I was like, I guess, why? And he said, "I just want to sing Pull Me Under by Dream Theater." And I kid you not, I tell a story all the time because it's a kind of a joke with James. I didn't care for Dream Theater. I was like, I don't like this singer. But he came over and I didn't want to do vocal scale. So I didn't want to do the stuff Jim Gillette taught me. So I don't have it down here, but I had a thing called a pitch wheel. And it's like a little round harmonica. And I said, "Hey, try this." I'm like, "Guys," I blew on it and I said, "Do this." Yeah. And we just did a slide and we slid back down. He said, "What is that?" I said, "It's called a siren." I made it up because Jim Gillette would do that. You go to YouTube, you see him go, "Yeah," and he has that high slide. And I mimicked that. And his voice grew, and then word got out, and I started teaching people around here. And then I wrote my first book. I got them Mythbusters and all that, and it unfolded. And when I started training people like James, it was more about vocal strength training, making sure he could do it night after night. So that's where the methodology, that's where the passion of mine comes from. Because when I see a singer light up and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I hit that." You should have seen Brian when we were there. He was like, he's like, "I'll never hit that A." And we're working on Hurricane. This is before it's even out. We're in his apartment before he moved into his house. And he's just wailing, and his fiance, then girlfriend comes in, and he's like, listen to this. I'm like, "Dude, you got it. What are you worried about?" It's all we're doing. And you know this from having PT, we're building muscle. And you go to YouTube, all these coaches are talking about the cricothyroid, thyroid muscles. I know all that. I work with a doctor, but I don't teach that way. I teach from more of a strengthening therapy type approach, even though I don't call it therapy. I'm not a therapist. To work the muscles, like isolate the muscles and stretch them and build them like we're doing squats and bench presses with the vocal cords.
Right.
And I've proven it time and time again. If I didn't develop this methodology, which I call the ISO method, I would not hold the glass shattering world record, because that's what gave me the power. I mean, I remember when I was first on Good Morning America, and when they were testing voices, and there was like 22 opera singers from the Boston Opera, Jamie and Adam and Roger Schwenke, Dr. Roger Schwenke from Meyer Sounds, like, "Dude, you know how loud you are?"
The average human can do probably 80 to 85 decibels, and to shatter a wine glass with voice alone, it takes at least 105 decibels, and I've been measured at right around 120 decibels.
I don't know. So they're like over 105 decibels. These opera singers can't even break 90. And I'm like, "What? I just got a big mouth." And then I was nearly 120 on the Mythbuster show. So, but it isn't anything special about my chords. We've scoped and we've looked, and my TA muscles are a little bigger, but it's just the training, the breathing, and all of that. So any of you watching this now, I mean, if you're worried, like, "I've lost my range, I'm getting too old," stop it. I promise you, unless you have like major vocal damage and you're working with an ENT about it, you can regain your voice. Hope is not lost, man. You really can find your way back. And that's what makes me happy. Because I never wanted to be a coach, but when I started seeing that, man, it changed who I was. Because, and it's never ego with me. Dude, I've worked with so many rock stars that people don't even know about, and I don't even care. I don't care if they endorse me or not. It's the fact that I've got them through, some trial in their life, and that's keeping music going. That's the thing.
That's so cool, and I'm so glad you said that. And the other thing too that I want to point out, just doing my research on you, is your training methodology is particular for everyone. If you have, if you want to increase your range, or if you just want to get better, like you say, you're training muscles, right? And that's what it's all about with you and your training methodology. And the other thing too, which is huge for me when I watch some of your YouTube episodes and your training sessions, is you are so pointed about owning your voice, and that's what I love about how you introduce your methods to people. It's amazing.
I get so many emails. The two biggest ones are, "Can you teach me to sing like James LaBrie?" And can you teach me to sing like Miles Kennedy? And I said, hey, you've already got a James and a Miles. Why don't we teach you to sing like you?
There you go.
That's what we want. And speaking of, I love Miles. I don't know if you guys heard, you probably had, and that's why you're mentioning anything. We redid Open Your Eyes by Alter Bridge.
Yep, I know all about it.
Completely changed it.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
That's what Miles
he's a
said.
beast, though. He's incredible.
Dude.
And
Yeah.
also did the vocals on one of my favorite, if not, fuck it, it is my favorite movie soundtrack of all time, Rockstar. You know,
dude.
and he's in that as the, you know, like if you just go listen to that. That's all you need to know about Miles Kennedy, okay?
That Steelheart,
Yeah.
So good.
I love it. Yeah.
And Slash too. Slash is whatever
Dude,
band, Big Top.
I was
Big Hat,
when
Big Snake band.
my buddies, like my brother Tony Harnell from TNT, he was playing with Skid Row for a minute, and there was a festival in Kentucky, and I went down to see him, and I don't know what they did, but you couldn't get any cell service. And I'm hanging with Tony most of the day, and I finally get a text from Miles. He's like, "Where are you at?" I'm like, "Dude, I couldn't get over here." We and my old drummer Tim Oda, we made it over, and they pulled us in and brought us up. Slash came by, kind of patted me on the shoulder. Miles hugged me, and right out on stage they went. But you know, I've never worked with him. You know, I helped him out when he was sick on the road on the Blackbird tour. But he's got a phenomenal coach, Ron Anderson. But everybody, that's what I'm saying. People contacted me like, "Can you teach me to sound like Miles?" I'm like, why? Well, I was at an Alter Bridge concert, and afterwards I met Miles, and he said he needs to come to Jaime Vendera for lessons. I'm like, dude, you got a coach. But he's something about our relationship, man. You know, not taking anything away from Ron. You know, he knows. I know he supports him much more than he does me, and of course he should. But a lot of singers reach out to me because of my connection with Miles and James.
So that's just like kind of word of mouth. I guess it gets around.
Yeah, dude. I was telling somebody, talking about management today with one of the I Prevail team. And I said I never had a manager. And yeah, I've been on like 60, 70 TV shows. I've toured Australia. I've taught in Bahrain. I've taught in India. I've taught in Poland, and in the United States. And it's just word of mouth because I am like the worst marketer. And any ads you see from me on Facebook, that's not me. That's my partner, Ben Balin.
I don't know, man. You've got a natural like pitchman energy. Like I was watching your videos talking about it. I was like hooked. I'm like, dude, this. And then I'm like watching some of your. Again, you're talking about the passion, and I'm one of those guys where I love specialty stuff. You know, and whether it's like barbecuing or, you know, any of my other crazy hobbies that Daryl knows about. Like, it's just the special end of things that I love. And that's like what you do. You know, it's like a specialized, hyper-focused, again, it's a commitment thing. And I see that passion and the energy in your teaching, like, because there's something funny kind of about trying to explain to somebody how to sing. And, you know, I come, obviously, you know, I'm a musician. Early on, I was a singer all the way up until I like started being interested in girls, and I thought it was uncool to be a singer. Little did I know, like, that's where the money could be. You know, I should have stuck with that. But you know, like, I grew up in the choirs and the jazz competitions and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
sax.
super lots of female action there, of course. But watching you explain how to do a technique is really fun. And I think, like, and the links will be in the description of this YouTube episode and on the audio version if you're just listening to this right now on the podcast here. But you kind of like hop in and out of what you're explaining what it is, but you're demonstrating it. And it's like, it's like not intentionally funny, but I'm watching it and I'm just smiling because it made me like, your energy was coming through and it's exciting. And it's like, how did you develop your teaching style? Like, was it just, you're just trying to explain it?
Not, you know, just nervous energy. I had, well, my secret's really this 1 gallon jug.
That thing is fucking sweet.
Love it.
My 1 gallon
who usually has a gallon jug almost. Myself, I'm a big fan of large
beverage
vessels.
Constantly drinking. No, it's not coffee, it's water. But no, you know, I studied voice in Hollywood at Musicians Institute, and like I said, I started playing bars at 16. And I had a lot of trouble. And I had a coach right out of high school and college, and I love this woman, but she said, hey, you have a vocal break way down here in what's considered the bass range. You'll never sing high unless you do that voice. And she was referring to falsetto, and you're done. And I'm thinking, really? I'm singing Journey and Def Leppard and all this stuff and AC/DC out already in clubs, and I know that's much higher. I may be doing it wrong, but you know, I'm still doing it. And that's when I thought I need to go and study. And I went to MI, and their program was new, and I did learn some stuff, but I didn't really discover true vocal technique until I worked with Thomas Appel, Jim Gillette, and Elizabeth Sabine. And between all of them and studying old books like from Herbert Chissari and books from the 1800s from coaches way back when, that I started to put it all together. So my coaches really come from an opera background, and not like bel canto, like true opera where you bear down, you breathe, the belly expands, you bear down for support, and you place the voice straight up in the palate. And it just stuck with me, and I kept singing. And again, like I said, I didn't want to be a coach, but I had all these notebooks because I'd been studying voice for myself. And after that first lesson with Troy, I thought, you know, people kept asking me, so I started to develop it. And I'm high-strung, naturally high-strung. I mean, I know it's hard to believe. I'm kind of shy tonight, but I'm actually tired, man.
This is your low energy.
This is the low energy. This is the tired energy. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is perfect for us.
I don't know, man. You know, the last time I was in India, I landed. That's back in March of 2019. I was feeling great. Dude, by that night, I was so sick. You would have thought I had COVID before COVID was a thing.
Oh, man.
I was sick all the way. Had to take me to a hospital. I was like this. I got on a radio show and had to do a couple of workshops. I sounded like Barry White. I was just like this.
Wow.
But our major workshop, I don't even know how I made it through it. I was so sick of the day of the workshop, nobody even knew except for I was telling them.
Wow.
Sick. You know, so my energy is just something about teaching, man. It's and again, it's not, I mean, I have students who will work with me and say, hey, can you help me write lyrics, or can you give me a melody idea for this? And I don't approach it like, hey, you can sing everything. I approach it as you're one instrument. Let's fine tune that with sort of a reading support placement. Let's do the ISO exercises, and let's start developing it. And then we put it in your songs. And then if you want to work on vibrato or rasp or whatever, we can fine tune those as well. But it's always, all my lessons are different, man. It's just always about what the student needs.
So
now,
cool. So
do you work with you know, whatever you want to call it, screaming, the guttural kind of vocal techniques? Do you have a lot of requests for that kind of stuff?
Yeah, dude, you go to screaminglessons.com. I've actually we've released Extreme Scream 1 and 2, which is like the death stuff in the mid range. We're working on like Extreme Scream 3, which is Judas Priest and all that. Metal falsetto like King Diamond.
I love King Diamond.
Rock and metal vibrato, dude. You got to see the pictures. In my partner made me put on the makeup and everything to promote this, and I look like a dorky version of King Diamond. But yeah, dude, I do a lot. I actually was out in Colorado or somewhere, and I was teaching a group of doctors and scientists and vocal coaches how to scream, whether it was AC/DC or Lamb of God or Alice in Chains or Louis Armstrong. They wanted to know how to do the sounds without blowing out their throat.
Yeah.
And
for like medical purposes?
No, because they're teaching this. They want to expand it.
Okay.
So it was a group of great coaches from something called IBTOM, the International Voice Teachers of Mix. So they hired me and invited me out to do that. But the thing is, there was this scientist from Germany, and he's in the back, Dr. Hubert Noe, he's sitting here like this. And I'm like, I'm always nervous, but I turn it into something positive. I swear to you, my throat dried up in a minute, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to do this workshop. And I'm scared to death because of this guy, because he knows this stuff. And I had a pep talk in my head and said, did Jaime flippin' Vendera do this? 3 hours later, everyone's clapping. Dr. Noah walks up to me, and he says, you're in the wrong profession. And I thought, oh, God, here we go. He says, you're a Wagnerian tenor. You can make so much money with that voice. And I said, dude, I'm not. I'm a bass. I'm just no. Let me put it to you another way. I wish I had your voice. Oh, you know, wow. What a compliment.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And
you should be here, Jaime. You should be here telling stories at NFL Films, man.
Where you at?
You can do that.
Yeah, dude, I would love to.
Mount Laurel, New Jersey, man.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
I just want to travel. God, I haven't traveled. I don't know if you guys do it
know.
on a plane, but I'm like,
Cooped up.
I live in
Yeah,
this little
yeah.
room. I'm remodeling, and all I'm doing is filming, and I suck at filming. So I appreciate you saying those films look good. Some of them,
They
if it's
look
my
great.
full,
I don't know what you're talking
That
about.
if it's
look
my
awesome.
full, if it's the full-bodied ones, my guy who's doing the band friend video with me, Sean Daniel, he filmed those. But if it's just me sitting here, there's a blue screen behind me. That's me with the Canon camera, and you know, all my team helped me kind of dial it in because I suck at setting up lighting and all that stuff, and they just tell me when it's good, and I go.
I thought it was great, man. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've been blowing through a lot of stuff here. I want to bring up something I heard on the on one of your coaching videos. Your body is a tuning fork and kind of using the vibrations of your body. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit on what you mean about that?
Yeah, dude. I mean, when you sing, come on. I mean, because the thing is, I didn't come at this as a rock or metal singer. Me growing up in my house was a ton of James Brown. There's Teddy Pendergrass. There was John Lennon, Led Zeppelin. So all these artists who their whole body resonated. I mean, you could hear it with everything. And then as I started learning about singing, they talked about like chest voice and head voice, and where you feel these vibrations. And I'm like, you know what? When I'm speaking to you, I can feel vibration in my fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I always focus everything in the roof of my mouth, and I feel like everything vibrates. So when you're free and loose and you're singing from your soul, you really feel it everywhere. You don't have to think, oh, I'm in chest voice, I'm in head voice. Just let it resonate and let it buzz. I mean, you can hear it. What case in point, you may be at a concert, you can't hear yourself, but you'll be singing along, and everything's so free. And you know you're in key with the artist. Why? Because you can hear that pitch, the guitar, everything's resonating, that whole amphitheater, and your body can feel it. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of times, well, even Brian, man, he was so hooked on, I gotta have the perfect mix. When we were on tour last time, they were having trouble with their inner systems, and it went out, and they had to come over and swap it out, and he needed mine, and the song was coming back in, he's trying to get it fixed. I start patting him on the shoulder for the beat of Gabe's drums, and he goes into singing, and dude, it was so funny. One of his the I Prevail team, Dom, said, dude, he was pitch perfect. It was flowing. He could not hear himself because he accepted that his body was a tuning fork. He trusted it. He could feel the vibrations from the guitar, from the bass, from the drums, and it locked in. You know how to sing in tune. Your body wants to sing in tune. Everything wants to sing in tune. We just got to get out of our head space, because everyone's like, oh, you know, I can't do it. I can't hit the note. I haven't sang in 6 weeks. I got a cold. And before my accident, here I am saying, before my accident, dude, I've been on shows where I was like this. I was sick with the flu, and I'd get up there, and then I would sing a song, and I'd break a wine glass, and you wouldn't even know I was sick except for the sweaty armpits and my shirt. So, you played football, dude. I guarantee you, there was a time when you're like, man, I got a pounding headache. I'm sick. I can't hit the field, but I'm going to do it. And you gave it your all. So
yeah,
that's what it's about.
Body remembers, man. Your body remembers. Body knows.
You know, you're talking about vibration, and kind of that's not to get all woo-woo here, but I don't know if that's
all right.
Offensive to the
I
woo-woo.
like woo-woo.
Get woo-woo
I'll go
if
with
you
it.
want, man.
So I have this theory. I'm a big, there's a couple bands I really love in my life. You know, Dream Theater is one of them. We'll talk about them in a second. But Meshuggah is, they do there's something going on there. And this reminds me of a conversation we had with Mike Mangini. And Mike obviously comes from this mathematics and physics background, and he's also
He comes from Mars.
Yeah.
Mike is loaded.
Yeah.
Love it.
He's a special guy in the best way. He's amazing. And we were talking about this Meshuggah theory, and there's been times when I see them live where there's something going on in the room, and it has to do with the rhythm being this constant rhythm, and then this droning harmonic vibration that they put off, and it like connects everybody on stage, it connects everybody in the audience. And when you look at just on a basic level, human history with music, like we've used drums around the fire to tell stories, to go to war, to, you know, celebrate. I mean, there's something primal about it, and it's like it unlocks a deep part of you that you didn't know is in there until you find yourself, you know, at the Gramercy Theater or whatever with Meshuggah playing at this super locked in pace and at a certain frequency that almost resonates with your body. And it's like, I don't know enough to know like what the science or what's going on there, but I think that's that thing that people talk about when, you know, that connection to live music. And
no, dude, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I mean, everything vibrates, and I mean, if we break it down, look, when I'm screaming at a wine glass and it explodes, this pitch from me done something to that. They're breaking up tumors with sound. This thing works on the principle of sound. They've literally filmed when I'm going, woo, that sound is coming back down and massaging my cords and the muscle. You can see it. The best concert I've ever seen in my life was because of that fact. It was Prince on the Musicology tour, and I can't remember the drummer he had. This big old guy playing. They did a 3-hour gig, and that guy did not stop. There was no pause.
It's probably John Blackwell at that time.
It might have been John Black. Yeah, dude, I couldn't believe it. And it was he owned the thousands of people in this. It was like a hockey arena or something.
Yeah.
Up in Columbus.
And it moves the people. Yeah.
It was that tribal thing, and you could feel it. I mean, when we left her, I felt lighter. It resonates your body. That's why they even say like singers live longer. You know, of course we're using more breath, but dude, it's being in contact with that primal sounds. You know, and understand that's babies crying. Think about babies going, ah, ah! They never lose their voice because their bodies, they understand how to resonate. We naturally know how to do it, and we forget. You know,
just blew my mind, dude.
Dude, that's where
I never thought about that.
Where my teaching, well, you never hear a baby go, ah, 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 never mind, I lost my voice. It never happened.
Yeah,
It
never happened.
Keep going.
But we get into school, and like the one thing guys do, all of a sudden they're like, hey, I'm big and I want to fight. You forget how to breathe. You watch a baby in a crib, and when they're inhaling, their bellies are rising and they're dropping. And when they're crying, they're pushing like they're pooping. I mean, they bear down. That is where we get the energy and the power. Mm-hmm. So
that's where the money is.
That's where the money is. You know, people talk about sing from the diaphragm. I'm sorry, I don't care how many coaches I piss off tonight. You can't sing from the diaphragm. It's a very important muscle, but it's the inhalation muscle that helps expand downwards, or it does expand downwards, and it fills the lungs with air. Fills your fuel tanks. To support, we have to bear down, and that keeps that diaphragm down too, so it relaxes slower. And it doesn't go whoo, so you don't push all that breath out, and you know, excess breath, it'll blow those cords apart, it'll dry out your cords. So we want breath control, and it all connects, man. When you bear down, it's like turning on an amplifier. That's why I'm so loud. Bearing down is what gives me that power.
Daryl, you know what we're gonna have to do, right?
Well, Bruce Lee thing, or you have to break a glass?
No. We're gonna have to connect you with EJ. We're gonna have to.
Man,
it has to happen, right?
Oh my gosh!
Tell him who EJ is.
So EJ is a young man that used to be a producer here at NFL Films. Now he's a voice actor. He does commercials. He does movies. He does Good Morning America's like open. He does Inside the NFL. All of our segments. And I mean, but this guy, he gets on, and it sounds like he's 23, 24. But it sounds like his balls have dropped like 18 times. It's ridiculous, man. I swear to you, it's unbelievable.
Dang, I gotta have the flu. I have to have the flu in India for that to happen.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we'll have to put an ultimate vocal summit together.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
This has been great, man. So I want to talk about Mythbusters, and before we get into that, but like, when did you first go, you know what, I'm going to shatter a glass with my voice? Like, at what point did you realize you could do that?
Dude, that was like 1988 or something, because Nitro came out. Michelangelo Badio had the 4-net guitar, and Jim hitting those notes, and you watch the Freight Train video, and he's exploding glasses. Well, I was a big fan of Jim. I did his program. I was like a stalker at every Nitro show came around. We became friends.
Sometimes that's what you got to do, man.
Dude,
Sometimes
you got to be a deranged fan. And so I started this website called The Voice Connection originally, like '02, and I'm interviewing, Stephen Algieri and Tony Harnell and all these singers I adore. And I reached out to Jim, and he's like, you can never find him. Him and Lee were married at the time. They had 2 children, and I get this phone call at my house, and I pick it up. I hear Jamie, and I hadn't talked to him in like 12 or 15 years. But I knew my eyes went boing, and my wife knew it was Jim Gillette, because that's the only person that make me do that. So we became tight, interviewed. He actually is the one that got me on Mythbusters and Good Morning America.
Sweet.
Because he called me, they wanted him to do it, and he's like, I live in the islands. I don't want to do it, but I know who can. And he said, hey, you want to be on TV? I said, sure. Doing what? Shattering glass.
What a gig.
Dude, I about crapped my pants, and my heart said absolutely no way, but my mouth, because this was my mentor, said, yeah. And I'm scared out of my mind. But I've been wanting to do that for, 88, 98, like 14, 15 years. And I never, ever tried it. He said, Jamie, I know you have the voice for it. You got me in your back pockets, and we'll do it. And I did, but the thing is, Jim can do it so much cooler than me. I sound like a broken foghorn.
I think it's awesome.
I think it's amazing.
I think it's like, because it's almost like, and don't take this the wrong way.
No,
I respect.
I would never sing that way.
So. It's almost like a superpower. Like,
yeah, dude. Yeah,
it's
bro.
like you're really living your normal life, and then all of a sudden you're just like, and it's just like boom, I think that's better, to be honest with you.
It's funny. You go to YouTube, because a lot of people can do this now. They see me on Mythbusters. You see all these people doing it, and I'm like, yeah, but in the back of my mind, like, I know they learned it from me, because nobody in their right mind will make it sound that stupid.
I love it.
No, so
I think that's cool. I think that's the preferred way, because it's almost like you could just pull it out at any point and just.
Yeah, dude. Well, it is. It's a kind of a.
Go into a Lennox. Remember those stores?
Oh, yeah. Listen, I went into, not one of those, but I went into this crystal shop in Columbus looking for new shops. I'm always wanting something to challenge me. So I've had some. We haven't done those shows, like really high soprano notes. And I'm like, walk in, and the first thing the manager come and said, you cannot open your mouth in the store, okay? We know who you are.
You're known in the crystal community.
Yeah, apparently.
That's so cool, dude.
So I was like, and even Shops Weasel, the company we used, they were pissed at me for a while. We were ordering, and they were like, no, because their motto is our glasses are unbreakable. They're tight.
Oh, no.
So you can drop them on the floor, and they won't shatter. Most of the time. It's glass. You can't shatter it. But I softened them up, and I was like, dude, you got to realize you got to be like, nothing could shatter our glasses except for Jaime Vendera. I said, use me for free. I don't care. And the next thing I know, they're sending me hundreds of these things for free. So
yeah, I would think that would be a good ad. Just show you like this.
Oh yeah.
You like, come on, guys. Jeez, get it together. That's truly spectacular. Yeah, that's kind of fun to think about. Like, you're a wanted man in the crystal community. It's like any young boy who's ever been dragged into a crystal store by their mother. They're probably now they got something in their back pocket. They're like, oh really? And they just pull out a little YouTube.
What would Jamie do?
Right.
Exactly.
Roll out that superpower.
It's like the expression, like a bull in a china shop. Like Jamie in a crystal shop.
I'd use that.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So before I forget, how was your Mythbusters experience? Were they cool? As cool as I think? Because I loved that show when I was a kid. I've seen every episode.
You know what's so funny? Before they went off air, when it was just Jamie and Adam, 3 or 4 years ago, Adam reached out to me and he says, dude, we had a meeting this morning and we're talking about doing a best of Mythbusters, and the first thing that came out of my mouth was your name. Would you please come do? I said, abso-freaking-lutely.
Yeah.
So it's like 10, 12 years after the show. And then, of course, that they actually end up getting canceled, so they never got to do it. So. But yeah, they were both awesome people.
Yes, that's such a cool, back when Discovery, kind of showed you some. I love those Alaskan crab people or whatever, the bush people of Alaska.
Yeah.
I can't act like I don't. Anytime I'm in a hotel for work, I'm like watching 8 hours of Alaskan Bush People. That's what ends up happening when I'm done working from the hotel. So, one of the last non-Dream Theater questions I have for you, man. Who are some like modern pop singers that you think are like better than the rest? Maybe that would.
Oh,
kind of
dude,
surprise
you know
people?
what? I've been studying. The thing is, everyone thinks I'm metal and rock, and like I said, I come from even the stuff my mom listened to in the '80s. I was all about Ready for the World, Prince, New Edition, bands like that. I love the 4-part harmony, and Melvin Riley from Ready for the World. I don't know if you remember Oh Sheila, one of my all-time favorite singers. I absolutely love him. So I'm drawn to a lot of that, but I'm hearing someone who I didn't think was really good was Ariana Grande, and then I started listening to her, and I'm like, oh wow. I mean, like hearing her impersonations is what drew me in, and then hearing her, the fluidity of her voice, The Weeknd. I love.
Yeah, he's really good. He was one of those guys where I wanted to be like, no, this kid baby sucks, and then I was like,
no, I got a student.
Really
I got a student who's Indian. I forget where he lived in India, but I think he was born and raised here. He sounds a lot like The Weeknd, but I'm like, dude, because he grew up studying the scales. That
I love Bollywood stuff, man.
Dude, I know. I said, dude, if you want to make it, you already have that natural, almost Michael Jackson tone. Approach it like that, but add some of the Indian influence to make a huge difference. So yeah,
we've got a lot of listeners in the Cosmic Canoe in India. They come out for this show, so shout out to India.
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, Preetam, Shamli, Kudgadi, Nakash Aziz, Choparao, Harshdeep Kaur. I worked with quite a few Bollywood artists.
That's amazing.
Nice.
That's amazing. Yeah, I always. Be honest with you, that's another one I'll sit there and watch for 8 hours. So, we've been kind of hitting on it the whole time here. So how did you end up, working with James LaBrie from Dream Theater? Because obviously we talked about at the top of the show, he's a friend of ours, former guest, episode 94, just a couple weeks ago. And Dream Theater's newest, live album, Distant Memories, live in London. I mean, good. You can really hear kind of your, I guess it's like your a little bit of your handiwork and helping him and coaching him.
That. I mean, but he did the work, man. He had like 3 or 4 of these kids on the road. I made him a warm up, and he stayed on it. He even told me before they recorded, he said, dude, I think they took it over two shows in London or somewhere, and he says I felt spot on. My voice felt amazing. Like I said earlier, I didn't care for Dream Theater back in the '90s. But then my drummer, Keith Gilbert, was into them, and I started listening. Dude, I fell in love with his voice. It was kind of like if Freddie Mercury sang for a prog band or something. He just had that Mercury type tone, that clean tone. Except
I never thought about it like that,
dude. Yeah, and I asked him about it, and that's a huge influence for him. And that's, if I'm comparing, that's probably the closest thing that comes to me. So now that you listen to Dream Theater, you'll be hearing that.
Yeah.
So Gigantor.
Megadeth. I remember that.
So I had the Voice Connection website, and I was trying to interview James LaBrie. They were coming to Huntington, West Virginia, and this was back pre-Facebook. You couldn't hardly get a hold of anyone. So I'm emailing his webmasters.
You had to like wait outside their show like a crazy person.
Almost, what I did, my foot in the door was Mythbusters. I said, hey, I was on Mythbusters. I shattered a glass with my voice, and I got this
probably
website.
Caught his attention.
And exactly. So he personally emailed me, and he says, you know what? I'm not doing any interviews in Huntington, but you're getting one because the guys in Dream Theater do not believe you can shatter glass. We're not calling you a liar, but we just can't believe it's possible. And so me and Keith Gilbert, my old drummer, we took a wine glass. I left it in the car. I get on the tour bus for the interview. He looks at me, says, so you can really shatter a glass, huh? And I smiled and I let out this blood-curdling scream and kind of shocked him. And Keith said, you want me to go get the wine glass? And James says, never mind. He says, I believe you. And we became friends. We stayed in contact. And around 2008, we were talking, and he says, I've had the accident in '94 where he ruptured both cords. And he said, dude, it's been a rough road. I'm still singing, but there's still some stuff there. I said, well, why don't you let me work with you? Why don't you try these bizarre exercises? So I worked with him during Black Clouds and Silver Linings. And if it's not broke, don't fix it. I don't think a singer needs constant vocal lessons. So we did maybe a dozen, and he toured. He felt great. We stayed in touch. I'd go to concerts and see him. And a couple of years ago, when the Vokes came out, I took him one. I said, "You're going to love this thing." And he tried it out and he loved it. And then I didn't talk to him for maybe 6-7 months. I said, "How's the Vokes going?" I put it away. "Why?" He said, "It's making my voice tired." Well, what he was doing, he was filling it way too high with water. This is like lifting weights with water. So you see, I've got very little water in this thing. The more you have, the more weight that's your back pressure you're putting against your cords. So when we readjusted him, bam, it fell into place. And he had called me before distance over time. He said, "Hey, you think you could give me Jim Gillette's phone number? I'd like to talk to him, maybe do some lessons with him." And, I'm always experimenting. I said, "I'll call him. He ain't going to work with you." Because he actually passed the torch to me. I teach his vocal power scales, and actually gave Jim Gillette a couple vocal lessons, like 3 years ago when they were going to reform Nitro for a minute, and he wanted to scream, so we worked on that. But I told James, I said, we can go over the scales, or man, I can introduce you and get into this Vokes thing, and that's what we did. We started doing lessons, and he's like, "Dude, I can't believe it." And even the story he told you from South America, I didn't know that. He never even told me that. And I'm like, makes me happy.
Nice.
Use that for a YouTube ad.
Nice. There you go.
Well, I told him, I said, "Yeah, James, if you're watching this, you told me like weeks ago you were going to redo what you told these guys on the show." I'm still waiting.
You may have to hit him up on Cameo.
Yeah. I'm gonna text you later and say that, "Hey, Cameo to get that endorsement from you."
Nice.
Yep. That's awesome, man. So, as we wind down here, Jamie, obviously we're going to have you back on. There's so much to talk about, and you're into so much stuff. Where is the best place for, people to keep up with you, people to get in contact with you if they kind of want to work on themselves or, get some lessons, whatever it is? What's the best way to get the Jamie experience?
I would go to jaimevendera.com. Lessons, or you can reach out. I still, after all these years, personally answer all the emails that are sent to me. It's overwhelming, but I do it. It's just I haven't hired an assistant. I'm not like that. I'm not wired that way. You can buy ebooks and audio programs. You can get the screaming stuff. I talk about screaminglessons.com. It's all on jaimevendera.com. Again, I write a lot of fiction too, just as much fiction as I do nonfiction.
Really?
You have to, dude. I've written horror, YA fantasy, mafia, and it was funny. I had a partner, Daniel Middleton, and he still does all my interior book design. And we started 711press.com because this is how I am. I'm always thinking, I'm always creating. And I said, let's write some fiction together. We started writing, and then he got so busy, he's like, he didn't have time. So I just took it over, and he still works with me on the other stuff. But we had all these fake names, and we have one editor, Rich Dalglish. So I called Rich. I said, "Hey, dude, I know I'm not stupid. I know when I'm writing about werecats, Jamie Lynn Sanders, it's me. And when I'm writing horror like Flight 666, it's me." And Rich says, "No, wait, what? No, there is no way all these different genre authors are you. Because when I get into a genre, that's how I write. I actually change my persona and really focus and get into the nitty-gritty."
Awesome.
But I just always
cool.
Constantly writing, man. I'm writing a series now to tie in with songs called The Chronicles of Vendera and Stith, and we might do the same with Angel Fire East and all the other music I'm doing, but constant. I'm always writing something. It never stops. But you can get check that stuff out at venderapublishing.com, or go to Amazon. If you go to Amazon, we got a lot of stuff on Kindle, a lot of stuff on print that you can see. So yeah, then you'll realize what a freak I am.
Dude, I'll tell you what, makes me want to get a lesson, and, maybe you just got some crystalware you want to fuck up.
Yeah.
That's
true.
Holler at your boy.
Yeah.
Jamie, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much for hopping in the Cosmic Canoe with us, and we're going to see you down the road.
All right, brother.